Transmission is now active, and last thing is to do the old Facebook, and voila, I believe we are now live. It is Friday, April 28th. Welcome to the Freeform Friday edition of the Crypto Flight Path. Welcome, Josh, coming to us live and direct from Austin, Texas. What's going on? What's word on the street there today?
It's hopping down here, man. I went to Consensus yesterday. I'm going to go again today. It's crowded. That was the main thing I was looking for when I came down here. This is the first in real life crypto event I've ever went to. Strange being in the industry for 6 years, so it's good to get a pulse on everything. Obviously, the panels are great, right? But you can stream those online. And so I was talking with my brother yesterday. The ticket to get in was like $2,000, and we were able to get a code for free tickets. And I said, the value in these conferences is getting in front of people. And it's the same way in any business, right? Even in crypto, right? Because, you can stream these. It's cool to sit and watch the panels live, but I wouldn't pay, $2,000 to go do that. It just seems silly. The real value in these conferences is the networking and the people you meet. Had a great day yesterday, met a lot of people. Everyone's excited. It's interesting when you see, everybody feels like, crypto's struggling, but then you go to the conference and you just look at all the activity. Somebody told me yesterday they heard there was 14,000 people registered for this. And, we walked all over. You walk out of the conference, you go get food. Everybody's got Consensus badges.
Technical difficulties. It looks like we need to.
We're back.
There we go. All right.
Yeah. So, my brother lives a couple blocks away, and you walk by, 3-4 blocks, and it's still people with Consensus badges. So, really excited to see that. Had a couple of meetings with some of the bigger players in the space, mainly investors, and the general consensus is, look, this isn't new. We've gone through these cycles before, as we talk about all the time, and people are still building, and there's a lot of really exciting things happening. We went to the Helium Mobile event last night. It was packed. Met a lot of cool people there. It's just one of those things that crypto is not dying, and it's funny that the mainstream media coverage you get on this stuff is just, it's like two different worlds. If MSNBC or Fox News was serious, or CNBC, they would have people at Consensus reporting, right? Because they talk about it every day, And so I think we're in the next cycle. I think we'll be there, but overall, really positive.
You just made an excellent point. Crypto is on the lips of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the mainstream, in normie land, in citizen land, okay? This is hilarious to me. Crypto's also on the lips of the mainstream media pundits, but it's at the direction, or they are following orders, and they're following directions, okay? And you see it on the lips of legislators, and it's the point I'm trying to make is that your point. I think that just sent a lightning bolt right into my forehead. Is that the legislative aspect? They're not actually serious, and the mainstream media especially are not actually serious about this right now, because it's always flavor of the minute for the mainstream media, and we all know this. And I don't need to harp on about that, but the point I'm trying to get to is that if it actually was a serious thing, and they were trying to do something constructive other than just generate short-term eyeball traffic and ratings, they would put people here to cover and figure out what's actually happening and try to construct a narrative that would have some runway into the future that they could come back to. And that's just how these narratives, that's how these mainstream media threads work. And gosh, I can't even comment any further, because it'll just send me into a tailspin. But I think that was you just hit this incredible nail right on the head with a purely formed digital hammer, whack, right on point. So
no, well, it's true. For how much they talk about it every day, you would think they would have people on the ground. trying to get in front of some of these people. Hey, what's going on with the space? Hey, get Caitlin Long, get Eric Voorhees. And that was one of my favorites yesterday. There was a panel with Caitlin Long and Eric Voorhees, and I just thought it was great. And I'm excited today. We're going to go see Balaji talk about the network state, and an imminent fiat crisis is the name of the thing. So, is there an imminent fiat crisis? But for how much they report on this stuff, they don't actually do their job, right? Like that's the interesting thing.
No, they do not. I think that's a really. Anyway, we've got every other day of the year to beat up on the mainstream media for all the right reasons that exist to do that. I think what's interesting, and I want to highlight from my perspective, what's really most fascinating is that there's two worlds. There's when you turn on the television, there's the world as it's being portrayed, and then hearkening back to the old Bill Hicks, who I believe is from Texas, where you happen to be right now. His thing was you turn on the mainstream media, it's war, famine, death, AIDS, war, famine, death. I mean, there's a whole bit that you can go and Google or go on YouTube and find lots of great stuff. And the point I was trying to illustrate is that at the end of that bit, he says, you walk out your front door and he makes the sound with the microphone, of crickets chirping. And I've never forgotten that. And it's been 20 years since I first heard that, and I've seen this as a normie out in the world trying to survive and get by and then ultimately thrive in the things I want to do in life, which I think is what a lot of people want more than anything else, is they just want to be able to do the things they want to do within the bounds of law, within the bounds of our great nation and the freedoms that we hold dear, guaranteed and are put forth by our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and without fear, and be able to try and achieve great things. And I think that's the point I'm driving towards here, is that I really appreciate what you're saying of seeing all these people, despite the hubbub and the garbage in the mainstream media, they're getting up. They're putting their time, their effort, and their energy and their money into trying to do something constructive in this particular space. And it's not just this space that this is happening. I'll argue that across all industries, all personality types, there's still a lot of great stuff going on, and people are trying to move the needle and push their thing forward. And it just happens that we're in the industry that we're focused on and things that we're passionate about, is that there's still thousands and thousands and thousands of people, if not millions of people, that are focused on building great products and trying to facilitate forward movement and bringing great stuff to the market, and kind of, in a manner of speaking, if we have to, try and drag people kicking and screaming towards this new world.
Yeah, two quick things. Like, one, I was laughing last night. I made a tweet, and I said, I can't wait to go to the next gold conference and learn about all the things people are doing with gold to help the future of the world all over the world. Right?
That was a good one.
And it's just
really
like, it's like, for all these people, that's the old world, man. That's, we're running fast forward into the new world. And, you don't know this unless you go and see these things. But the other thing too is we talk about like in real life use cases. Caitlin Long brought up an idea yesterday that you've got this issue with AI emerging in deepfake videos, okay? And she brought up the idea of using SATs to deter people from making these deepfake videos. For instance, like Joe Rogan could use SATs to prove that it was him that actually sent the video, right? And this is huge. I mean, this is a huge in real life use case, that's going to become a bigger and bigger problem. And I'm not sure specifically how this works, right? But just the idea of being able to verify that, yes, this is Josh Vahovic. This is not a deep fake. This is me, right? And I think that's really powerful.
The underlying elements in the cryptosphere is this as Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, once said, not even that long ago, said that one of Bitcoin's crowning achievements was the way it employed cryptography. And what I'm trying to say there is that this concept of cryptography, you don't have to know what cryptography is. We already use it in every part of our lives now today. I mean, in the old days when you were sending zip files, it was a form of cryptography, except it could be reversed. Anyway, that's way down the rabbit hole. But what I'm trying to get to is that one of the most fascinating things about, for example, a crypto wallet, for example, a Bitcoin wallet, is that the way that you can put a transaction onto the network and verify that it was you that did it. And I mean specifically you, because of the unique signature that comes from the wallet that you have possession of. And that's a really key component, is that in the way I think this could play out in real life is that if you can digitally validate who you are, like the Joe Rogan can on some platform like Twitter verify who he is, or on some other identity management platform. I'm just going to spitball here, shoot from the hip in every way, shape, and form. If he can verify who he is and prove who he is to the public, there'll be lots of copycats. But where it gets real and where you can trust, and this is where, you don't have to trust people. You can trust cryptography here, is that if he's able to send even one sat to, say, YouTube that comes from his wallet and has the signature that matches and can be verified that it was him, he can upload a video, he could send one sat, he could send a million sats, and use that transaction as a way to digitally sign this content so that it gets etched into the blockchain forever. And then anybody on Earth at any point in time can take the transaction hash or the transaction identifier and plug it into their own Bitcoin node, for example, or go to the mempool, go to any block explorer for the Bitcoin blockchain and look up that transaction hash and verify that it came from the point of origin that they know to be Joe Rogan in this case. And I think Michael Saylor has talked about this, and he has talked about it in the context of there's lots of really awful fakes that go on every day of the year. They're reporting live streams on YouTube, for example, and other platforms where people are purporting to, or they are running scams that if you send Bitcoin to them, they'll send you twice the amount back. That's just one example. And the idea is that there's no cost to do this. Nobody has to put up any money nobody has to they don't have any skin in the game. They can just spin up a new account, say who they want you to believe they are, run a scam, get shut down eventually. But Michael Saylor's point here is that if it were necessary for you to put up Bitcoin as collateral, either in on-chain Bitcoin or Sats, and if you violate the rules, there's a penalty and you lose your deposit, in the manner of speaking. It's just like renting a townhouse or a room or an apartment. If you put a security deposit and you screw things up and if you damage the place, they take your deposit back there's real skin in the game and financial penalty, and that's kind of what's missing. And I think that those are really important things for us to try and figure out as a species and moving into the future in the digital age.
No, yeah, and that's something too. You kind of have to look to the future, right, to try to identify some of the possible use cases of this stuff, right? Because it's not apparently obvious right now. And we're just getting started with AI and deep fakes. And I just thought that was an unbelievably powerful concept. And it just clicked in my brain, like, hold on a second. People say there's no use cases for this stuff, but I'm giving you one glaring use case among many right now. And back to the media. I mean, they of all people should be all over this, right? Because the last thing they want is deep fakes of themselves out there, right? And so, I just thought that was really, really powerful. The other thing too that we always forget, but we always talk about, it's not just people from Texas or the United States that are at this event. There's people from all over the world that have come to Texas to talk about all of these things. And that's something that, there was a panel yesterday and the guy was from Nigeria. And he basically said, his friends in America are asking him, hey, how is it? It's pretty brutal over here. And he laughed. He said, what are you talking about? He's like, we have real world problems we're trying to solve with crypto, right? And we're not slowing down. Like it's not necessarily about the financial aspect for us. He's like, we are moving full blast through all of this because we have legitimate problems that this stuff fixes for us. And so that was really cool to see too, because there's an example, and there's 5 of those examples that I saw yesterday where people from outside the United States are using this technology to build things to benefit their futures, right? And that's another aspect of this too. We all get excited about the financial aspect of it, but there's real use cases for this stuff all over the world. And so back to what we're doing here is just it seems silly, right? And it just seems like, it it's just silly.
Now, the other, outside the U.S., it's people are people, and so on one end of the spectrum, you've articulated some really like salient points about how people outside the United States, the world is not, the world's not ending. There are lots of smart people that are doing great stuff, but on the same side of that coin, perhaps is one way to say it. Outside the U.S., the regimes that the governments, the dictators, whoever, the power apparatus that governs and really affects people's lives. I think people here in the U.S. have a really hard time understanding just how challenging it can be in many parts of the world. I think the African continent is a great example of how people are looking at the tech not from to just reiterate your point. It's not about financial gain today necessarily. It's about ensuring that they have access to things that they need, and the tech is solving some really fundamental problem. And I'll harp again on Maslow's hierarchy. When the things at the bottom of the hierarchy aren't met, you don't get to go to the next level up. And as long as the basics, the fundamentals are threatened, or there's access constraints, and when basic survival is the order of the day, you don't care about like whether or not you're going to make 1% or 100% or 1,000% on your Bitcoin trade. You want clean water, a place to sleep at night, and you need food to eat, and you need to be out of the rain or the elements, the local climate, and the way the machinations of weather can really put literally a wet blanket on you if you're not prepared. And the use case for this tech is rather fascinating, to your point.
Well, yeah, and what I would suggest people do is go on YouTube and watch the panel with Eric Voorhees and Caitlin Long and listen very carefully to what Eric Voorhees said, because he nailed it out of the park. And, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and expecting different results. We can't expect the government to fix the money problem because they're the ones that created it. And so this idea that, the government's going to come in with some new system or they're going to bail everybody out. I mean, this stuff is insane. They have no incentive to do so. There's another path forward, and that is crypto.
Yeah, on that exact note, listening to Raoul Pal yesterday again on another podcast, he made an interesting point that I felt substantial resistance to this idea, but the gist was that it's really easy for us to look at what the media reports about Jerome Powell, for example, or other central bankers, and it's super easy to pick up on and catch wind of how there's a sentiment that people think that they're stupid and they have no idea what's going on. And I'll argue to his point was, and I'll take this perspective for a minute, is that it's not that they don't have any idea what's going on, it's that they have to. There are certain things that they have to do, whether the public likes it or not. And the idea that the thing that they have to do is they have to figure out a way to try and keep the system from collapsing, which ironically enough, it's the order of the day for the central bankers is to keep doing the things that they're doing. And it is 100%, in my opinion, as I think about this or have thought about it, is that the can is just getting kicked further and further down the road. But in the short term, there will be these crisis events And he even went so far as to say that in some cases it's beneficial for central banking entities and the folks that are in those or the folks that are responsible for operating central banking mechanisms is that this particular regional banking crisis is it's been allowed to happen so that they can continue to facilitate the debt roll, which is what Raoul Pal talks about, and monetize and do all of the things that are necessary to stave off larger crisis events like the GFC in 2008, 9, and 10 and 11. And it's, whether we like it or not, they're on this path. And the point I was trying to make is that it's worth understanding what they're doing so that you can, we're not going to stop it, first of all. The thing that I want to really try and get out into the open here is that you'd be well to do to try and understand what is happening so that you can at least be prepared. And at the end of the day, it boils down to, from my perspective, is that our money, our fiat money will continue to be debased, and inflation and debasement are two different things. And inflation is the bigger enemy, and they will work and do everything that they can to be seen at a minimum, but also to actually do the good work of trying to make inflation come back down, but at the cost of currency debasement, meaning the supply will continue to grow and the number of things that you can buy without your purchasing power will continue to erode. And that's my own thesis here. Obviously, I'm one person, but I think the issue is debasement at the end of the day, from where I sit.
And that's a great point, right? But the main takeaway is, look, you can't ignore this anymore. That this isn't a thing that you can just say, oh, okay, yeah, I know there's a problem, but it's not going to affect me, and I just don't need to worry. I'm going to tune out to all this stuff. We're at the point now, and it's going to happen faster and faster, that this stuff is not ignorable. You can't just live your life and pretend none of this is happening anymore, because it's starting to get serious. I mean, it really is. And so what's very encouraging is no reason to panic. There is an alternative system. It works. It has worked. It will continue to work. It will only get better. It will only get easier to use. It will only become more and more mainstream. And so, while it might seem daunting at first, even for me, I talk to some people, and, I would say I am in the top 1% of understanding crypto, but I talk to people at this event and there's stuff that goes over my head, right? But that's okay. So what do? You take that, you write it down when you come home. What don't I understand? What do I need to understand? And then you go learn about it. And there's tons of resources to learn. Like yesterday, I had a conversation with a guy about XNFTs, right? And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what an XNFT is and why somebody would use that and how to use it. And, that's what I'm going to spend some time today trying to look at and learn about. But look, I mean, that's just the way this is. It's always an evolution of learning. There's always something new to learn. And, all you got to do is just get started, because it is interesting, right? It really is. And not only is it interesting, it is necessary.
I want to share with you and with anyone under the sound of our voices here a real life example of me not just talking the talk but walking the walk, but also talking the talk while I'm walking the walk. Is the following: is that there's a Facebook group, or a message thread among a group of individual Facebook users, and someone was mentioning, very kindly so, that they tuned in, and they were listening to what we had to say. And I thought to myself, I says, I better try and give them some basic understanding. And this is what I communicated, and I think this is in the same, this is in line with what can people like you and I do while we're watching something of galactic proportion, like something the size of the sun that we're not going to ever be able to have any influence over or change. I basically said in a nutshell is that the underlying thread here is that purchasing power of our dollars is going to continue to go lower over time, and we would be well served to take dollars that we have today and put them into assets that are known to appreciate over time, meaning they go up in value as the purchasing power of the dollar continues to go down. Okay, and the idea is to preserve future purchasing power, not to get right. And notice I chose my words carefully. I didn't say get rich and go to the moon and win Lambo. I said preserve purchasing power into the future. And I'm talking like 10 years from now, because we can't see that far into the future. We can't see into the afternoon, some of us. And I'm one of them. It's hard, okay? And I mentioned last two things, is that gold has been this tool for a very long time, this idea of storing value in gold. And I said it's relatively scarce, and it's been used for a long time. People are familiar with it. Ask the Peter Schiffs of the world about gold. Last thing is that it had said, however, Bitcoin and some other crypto assets, okay, are becoming good for this purpose. Meaning Bitcoin's the ape, and I said the last sentence was that Bitcoin is the apex asset in the digital realm for this purpose today. And I think the point I'm trying to communicate, and it's more as I continue to develop my understanding of like why would you take dollars and put them into something else? It circles back around to that us at the tactical level in our day-to-day lives and in the things that we want to set ourselves up for future success and have safety and security across a bunch of different fronts. Food security, energy security, housing security, income security, access to capital when we need it. And it starts today. And the saying was, the 20 years ago is the best time to plant the tree. Then the second best time is right now. And the thing that I want to try and help people understand is that you do have, there is an alternative. You don't have to participate in the broken system necessarily. Although sometimes, until things change drastically, we still do have to participate. We have to pay our taxes in dollars, and we earn in dollars still, most of us. But we can take those dollars and find a place to park the value. We're parking purchasing power, the PPP. Parking purchasing power is the objective, so that we can, at a minimum, stay solvent and stay alive.
No,
and
that's
viable.
very, 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 very well said. And I think you communicate a very important point that gets lost a lot. This isn't about getting Lambos and getting rich overnight. This is so much more important than this. This is about protecting your purchasing power and the livelihood of your family into the future, because they are stealing from you, right? And it's not direct, but the current system is ciphering wealth and purchasing power away from inflation and debasement, and it's going to continue to go that way. They're not going to change, right? So I think that's a very, very good way to articulate this to people that are just learning and getting excited about, hopping into the space.
Yeah, so I would, in summary, I would say that despite the nastiness on the lips of the mainstream media, the rhetoric and the gyrations and the machinations of the political head of this group of leaders that are supposed to be having our best interests as a nation and representing their constituents, despite all of the nastiness and all of the jockeying for power and position and the leveraging of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the leveraging of monetary policy, like we're going to keep raising rates until the recession or until morale improves and all that stuff. Despite all that, you have out in the real world hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are focused on building, and their eyes are on the front of their head. Remember, they're looking forward and trying to build a better future that is not dependent upon just a handful of people. That ultimately, history, you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at history. Look at what happens again and again and again and again. And we're trying to peel off from this madness and be better served in the future, so that we don't suffer or we suffer less, and we end up in a world where we have these really incredible, and I mean incredible first world problems. We already have a great number of first world problems today, and I'm not complaining about those. I'm just saying, I think that's a great way to I think this crypto universe and all of the brilliant minds and all of the wicked smart people that are going to bring their time, their energy, and money into the space and try to build something greater for the future is really exciting at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, and you know, one quick thing to wrap up, you know, how do you participate, right? That's the question, right? Like I'm not a technical guy, you know, I don't code, you know, so how do I participate in building? Well, you know, you and I are doing this stream, we're trying to get out to people and kind of relay the message. You can do it through investing, right? You can find things that you're passionate about and believe in. And then also what you can do is just start participating in some of these ecosystems, right? And start to learn, you know, how this stuff works and where you can use it. Some of it's fun, some of it's, you know, tactical, some of it's, you know, OPSEC, some of it's, you know, planning, but, you know, you don't have to be, you know, a genius engineer to participate in the space. I'm certainly not, right? You know, when it comes to that,
Same here.
yeah, no, that stuff goes over my head, right? And, you know, you try to learn about it as much as you can, but you can still be active and participate in this new world that's being built in any way that, you know, your unique skill set, you know, can offer. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up for today. Very excited to go to day 2 of Consensus, and then we can talk Monday about any findings that I have there, anything cool that we see. But overall, really excited about the turnout here. Everybody's really excited. You know, it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, and as we say every time, please learn how to do your own research. This broadcast is intended to enrich and empower you to go out into the world and be enriched and empowered and develop your ability to understand the things that are going on and participate if you like. But just remember, you need to do your own research and you need to look out for number 1. So with that,
Yep.
I bid you.
Nothing we say is financial advice. You know, it's, you know, we're going to say it every time because we have to, I guess. I don't know, you know, but it should be obvious. But anyway,
Have a great session, and we will
sounds